Well, let's get started here. As you can see, the title of the talk is Wulfenite, the official state mineral of Arizona. But Wulfenite was not always the official state mineral of Arizona because we didn't have a state mineral. A little bit of background here. Most states have official things, obviously. And you can see a list here of all of our official stuff. So we've got birds, flowers, amphibians, the fish. Getting down here towards some more interesting stuff, we've got the Arizona State Gemstone, turquoise. Arizona is very well known for its turquoise. The Arizona State Fossil, petrified wood. This was passed in the 1980s. And just a few years ago, they declared the Arizona State metal to be copper. But we had no state mineral. So some people started wondering why this was, and a group of us mineral collectors in Arizona decided that we needed to push to create an official state mineral. What mineral do we choose? Well, the two that kept coming up was azurite or Wulfenite. Well, Wulfenite won out as the mineral that should be the official state mineral of Arizona. Well, why Wulfenite? Well, Arizona boasts more Wulfenite localities than any other place on Earth. No other state has more Wulfenite occurrences than Arizona. There's over 200. They don't all produce wonderful specimens. But, and of course, as you all know, Wulfenite is highly desirable and attractive, very collectible. In addition, Arizona Wulfenite has been featured on show posters for many years, featured on the covers of mineral books, mineral magazine covers, dealer advertisements, and mineral calendars such as this calendar that Lithography put out last year. Okay, let's get back to the basics here. I know most of you probably know this stuff, but what is Wulfenite? Well, it's a lead molybdate, so it's composed of lead, molybdenum, and oxygen. You can see right here. The crystal system is tetragonal. Other commonly collected minerals that are tetragonal are sulfur, anatase, and zircon. Hardness, very soft, 2.5 to 3.0. Color is orange-yellow to colorless. And it's the member of the scheelite group. The scheelite group is actually a series. It runs from stolzite, which is the lead tungstate end member of the series, and Wulfenite is the lead molybdate end of the series. Where does it form? Well, it forms in oxidized, meaning weathered zones of hydrothermal lead deposits where molybdenum is present. And it was named in 1845 in honor of Franz Javier von Wulfen, a Jesuit priest who authored a monograph on lead ores from Bleiburg, Austria, which is the type locality. So let's take a quick look at the idealized tetragonal crystal form. Wulfenite forms in this crystal system. But you say to yourself, well, most Wulfenites that I see don't look like this. Most Wulfenites look like this. What's going on here? Well, basically what's happening is this axis, which is the C-axis, you're looking down on top here at the C-axis. So that's a top view. This is a side view. This axis is getting squashed. So this is the same perspective as this. And then this is the top view down the C-axis. See what I'm saying? So now, Wulfenite can form as by pyramids, but it's just not as common. Okay, so the result is you get crystals that look like this. This is a handful of red cloud Wulfenites that were collected in 2005. Okay, so how did Wulfenite become the Arizona State mineral? The bill that was introduced to create this law is called SB 2092. The two guys that really pushed for this and did almost all the work to get this thing passed are these two gentlemen. On the left is Alex Schaus. Most of you probably know him. He lives in Tucson, a well-known collector of thumbnails. And this gentleman on the right, Chris Whitney Smith, who lives in Phoenix, he's the president of the Mineralogical Society of Arizona. These guys did more to get this thing passed through the Arizona State Legislature than anybody else. So we'll run through a quick timeline of how this happened. In 2013, Alex was the guy who realized, hey, we have no state mineral. So in 2015, we got copper designated as this official state metal of Arizona. So this prompted Alex to really push for this. So he contacted his congressman who decided to become the sponsor of the bill. It was introduced to the legislature in 2016, but the bill died in committee, nothing happened. So a year later, Representative Finch, who's the congressman, reintroduced the bill, and it passed. So now here's a poster that Chris and Alex created to promote the passage of the bill. You can read right here. This is kind of neat. Be it enacted by the legislature of the state of Arizona, blah, blah, blah. Article, blah, blah, blah. Wulfenite is the official Arizona state mineral. So during the Tucson show, Alex collected over 1,000 signatures to deliver to the legislature. Those guys put in an exhibit to help promote the passage of the bill. Calendars were distributed to the legislature during their meetings, and MSA members went to the Arizona State Legislature in Phoenix to help push this thing through. They brought a bunch of kids down, future Rockhounds of America, to the state capitol building. This is the exhibit they put in at the Tucson show last year at the convention center. Okay, so by February 10th, the bill was sent to the Senate, and let's see, by the 12th, on the 12th, right at the end of the show, governor's representatives visited the show to see the Wulfenite exhibit. And on March 16th, the bill passed the Senate by a vote of 28-1. You can see right here. We don't know who the one was. So
he won't identify himself.
Yeah, he won't identify himself. So then the bill went to the governor for signing, and he signed it. So on March 22nd, Wulfenite became the official state mineral of Arizona. So, victory at last. That was Chris sitting there during the legislative session when the bill got passed. Okay, so let's talk about some of the most important Wulfenite specimen producing localities in Arizona. I've listed them here by county. So I'm sure you've heard of most of these. Some you may not have. In Cochise County, we've got, you'll see at the top here, the Hilltop mine, the Defiance mine, the Silver Bill mine, which is right next door to the Defiance, and the Tombstone district, specifically the Toughnut and Empire mines. In Gila County, there's the 79 mine and the nearby Finch mine. Down in southwest Arizona in La Paz County, there's the Red Cloud mine and the North Geronimo mine, also known as the Pure Potential. In Maricopa County, we've got the Rowley mine. In Mohave County, the not so well-known Rawhide mine, which has produced some really great stuff. Down in Pima County in southern Arizona, the old Yuma mine near Tucson, and the Total Wreck mine. Pinal County, we've got Tiger, which is primarily the Mammoth-St. Anthony mine that produced most of the Wulfenite, and the nearby Ford mine. Santa Cruz County, the Glove mine. Yavapai County, the Purple Passion mine. And down in Yuma County, the Puzzler and the Hull, also known as the Rialto mine. So where are these mines? Here's a map created by John Callahan to show you where most of these things are. Tucson's right here in the lower right, and Phoenix is in the center of your screen. And you can see that nearly all the mines are in the southern half of the state. This is because this part of the state has been heavily faulted and weathered and oxidized for many hundreds of thousands of years, if not millions of years. So this is why we have such deep oxidation levels in really well-developed Wulfenite precipitation and crystallization, along with other secondary lead and copper minerals. So let's go ahead and look at each location and look at some specimens that are from there. Here's a picture of the Defiance mine. We'll go by county here, so we're starting with Cochise County. And this is the Defiance mine here on the left. And this is called Gleeson Ridge, this mountain here. It's east of Tombstone, the location of this place. So probably best known Wulfenite from the Defiance mine are these arrowhead-shaped, coxcomb-style blades. These were found in 1957 by Dick Bedeau and others. They hit a large water course. And this is a specimen in my collection. It's about 8 centimeters across. And that's one that was acquired by my father in about 1970, but it was collected in 57. Here's another one in Les Presmick's collection from the same find. This is 9 centimeters. Here's another one that's 11 centimeters. Now, the Defiance mine has also produced Wulfenites of other crystal habits, but this is the most famous find ever. Now, right next door to the Defiance mine, which is over here on the left, is the Silver Bill mine right here, which works the same vein system. Here's a typical nice lemon yellow Wulfenite from the Silver Bill mine, 4 centimeters across, out of Mark Hayes' collection. Here's a large specimen, 6 centimeters across, from Ian Whitlock's collection from the Silver Bill. This one's really interesting because the Wulfenite is sitting on hemimorphite, which is a zinc silicate with small calcite crystals. Okay, moving over to the southeastern portion of Cochise County is the Hilltop mine located in the Chiricahua Mountains. It's a beautiful setting. You can see here with these rolling mountains and trees. Beautiful dump. Of course, only miners or mineral collectors think that mine dumps are beautiful. Now, here's your classic Hilltop mine type specimen. This was collected in the late 30s by Ed Over. These beautiful lemon yellow blades on white calcite. This specimen's in Mark Hayes' collection, and it's 7 centimeters across. The vast majority of these specimens of this type were collected by Ed Over, who was financed by Art Montgomery to collect minerals in the Southwest back in the 1930s and 40s. He made, of course, a tremendous discovery at the Red Cloud mine, and also these discoveries at the Hilltop mine in the late 1930s. All of those specimens were sold through Shortman's, a mineral dealership in Massachusetts. So a lot of times with these old Hilltop specimens, you'll get old Shortman's labels, and it'll have the history, Edover, so on and so forth. Here's another piece in Mark Hayes' collection. Beautiful specimen, 12 centimeters tall. Also from about 1938. Here's a close-up of what these things look like. Opaque lemon yellow blades on white calcite. And the field of view there is about 4 centimeters. Occasionally the crystals will have rounded corners, like on this one. This is an Arkenstone specimen. And that's 6 centimeters. Also in Cochise County is the Tombstone district, which was a silver mining district. And it was first discovered in the 1870s, produced tremendous amounts of silver, but also carried some accessory lead and molybdenum in the form of Wulfenite. So this is what's left of the Toughnut mine. It's just outside of town in Tombstone. There's not much left there, but I think you still can go underground at your own risk. So here's what Tombstone Wulfenites look like. Kind of orangey yellow, typically on calcite, but not always on calcite. This one's 3.5 centimeters, and it's in Les Presmick's collection. Sometimes they occur with a little bit of Mimetite. This one's in Mark Hayes' collection, 6.5 centimeters across, from the Toughnut mine. Now the reason I call it, you may notice this Toughnut / Empire. The two mines connect underground, and it's not really clear exactly where one mine starts and another one stops. And there's Wulfenite on both sides of the line. So if you get a Tombstone Wulfenite labeled Toughnut or Empire, they're both right. So that's what's going on there. Here's another one in Les's collection. It's 5 centimeters across, also with the associated Mimetite. Moving up to Gila County in central Arizona is the 79 mine, which has produced many, many wonderful secondary zinc and copper and lead minerals. This is a view looking west from the top of the hill. This is the main shaft, but there's also an adit that goes in. These old buildings are still there, by the way. The most classic and famous Wulfenites from the 79 mine are the so-called red spot Wulfenites. They're so named because you can see this red spot right in the center of the crystal. There was only really one major find of these in the early 70s. This is probably the best one in existence. It's in Mark Hayes' collection, 5 centimeters tall. And so that makes this crystal around 2.5 centimeters. It's pretty amazing. Here's another one in Les Presmick's collection, and you can see the black sparkly mineral that the Wulfenites are sitting on. That is Montramite, which is a classic association from the 79 mine. This one was also collected in the early 1970s, and that's 7 centimeters across. Here's a more recent find from about 6 or 8 years ago. John Callahan and George Godis have been working the mine for specimens, and this is a piece that they had found. It's a 3 centimeter specimen in John Callahan's collection, and that was shot by Wendell Wilson. Here's another one that was probably collected about 10 years ago in George Godis's collection. And that crystal is 2.5 centimeters on edge. And you can see the delicate nature of a lot of these 79 mine Wulfenites. They're almost all these very delicate window panes. Very fragile, very scary. Now here's one that was collected in 1969. This was in my dad's collection. He bought it from the guy who found it. It too is on Matramite. I apologize for the low res photo, but that one's still in my collection to this day, and it's 4 centimeters across. Another 79 mine piece, fairly recently collected, 4.5 centimeters across in John Callahan's collection. Now this is a really neat one. Here the large Wulfenite crystals are coated with hemimorphite. And this is in Mark Hayes' collection, 6.5 centimeters across. And that's very typical of the 79 mine. You get these really neat combinations of different mineral species. Now, in case you're wondering what it's like to collect Wulfenite in Arizona, specifically at the 79 mine, here's what it looks like. Now, this is a completely unretouched photo, of course, of John Callahan at the 79 mine. And then I woke up, right? So. So that's underground on the 4th level of the 79 mine. So not far from the 79 mine and exploiting the same vein system is the Finch mine, also known as the Barking Spider mine. I don't want to get into how it got called the Barking Spider mine, but needless to say, I prefer the Finch mine attribution. So what do Finch mine specimens look like? Well, basically they look like 79 mine specimens, except they're coated with druzy quartz, which is, it makes them a lot more sturdy, a lot less fragile, easier to collect, and easier to handle. So that's a plus. So here's an Arkenstone specimen. I think I got this picture off the internet. Here's another piece. It's a 4.8 centimeter specimen, and it's on druzy quartz coating hemimorphite. But the Wulfenite itself is all coated with quartz. So very typical of the Finch mine. That's in Mark Hayes' collection. Here's another Finch mine piece. Color of Finch mine Wulfenites ranges from orange to yellow to colorless. And this is in Les Presmick's collection. It's 6.5 centimeters across, all coated with quartz. Really neat stuff. Okay. Moving into western Arizona, we come to La Paz County, and we start out with the most famous Wulfenite location in Arizona, perhaps in the world, the Red Cloud Mine. It's in a place called the Silver District because these were originally silver mines. And this shot here on the left is from the 1980s. It's a little more recent. This is from 2003 when Brian Lees was working down there. And you can see the head frame is still there. So let's take a look at some specimens. Oh, here's an underground shot. This was actually taken about a year ago. This is in the South Stopes, about the 200 level, I think, 250 level. And that was shot by Bud Standley. You can see the dipping vein that's been worked out with the stalls here holding up the roof. And you can even hear the crickets. Okay, let's look at some specimens. Well, let's start out with probably the most important find of Wulfenite at the Red Cloud Mine and perhaps in the world, and that would be the Edover find of 1938, excuse me. And this piece is in Wayne and Donna Light's collection. This was Art Montgomery's personal specimen in his collection that he had gotten from Ed Over. It then went to Dick Bedeau, and Wayne and Donna acquired it from Dick Bedeau. That's a 4.5 centimeter crystal. Flaming red color with gemmy sections. It's just unbelievable. And if you know Rock Courier or knew Rock Courier, you will recognize this as one of his photos because of the little brass scale here. This is a centimeter here on the right, and this on the left is an inch. So really, really major find of Wulfenites at the Red Cloud. Here's another specimen. This is actually a thumbnail. This was collected by Bob Lane in the 1970s, and it's on Mimetite. Used to be mine. I sold it to Diana Weinrich, and it's been in her thumbnail collection for a long time. That's 2.4 centimeters. Now in the 90s, a group went in to start mining specimens again, and it was spearheaded by Wayne Thompson and a few other guys, and they hit a major pocket in April of 1996, which produced many hundreds of specimens. It was a true bonanza, and this is a specimen that was found at that time. And this is 12 centimeters across. It was really the first time that somebody found many clusters of Wulfenite crystals, rather than just 2 or 3 crystals on matrix or a single crystal. There were many large crystal plates just covered with Wulfenite blades from this find. Very historic. Here's another piece from that find in 1996. This is in Les Presmick's collection. That's about 12 centimeters across. Here's another one from 96. 6 centimeters tall in Rudy Watzel's collection in Austria. And there have been some more recent discoveries. A pocket was hit in January of 2015. And here's a specimen that was found at that time. This was collected by Wayne Thompson and others who reopened the mine. It's now closed again, but this was really the only significant pocket they found during the 3 or 4 years that they were back in there. So that's 5 centimeters tall. Features this really neat crystal with this right angle modification. Here's another one from 2015 from the same pocket, 10 centimeters tall, and it's on kind of a druzy quartz matrix, and that's in the collection of Fabian Wildfang in Germany. This is one of the 2 best pieces found in 2015 out of that pocket. This one's kind of interesting because it's on white barite. And I apologize for the photo. It's kind of low quality, but it's really an amazing piece. Crystal is probably a little over 2.5 centimeters on edge. It's a pretty crazy specimen. Total 360-degree piece with no damage. Also from 2015, this beautiful blade with the classic beveled edges, 10 centimeters across. And here's one that was just found last year. This is really the last reasonably good specimen that they found before they shut the mine again. And we actually have this one upstairs in our room if you want to look at it in person. It's 5.5 centimeters. So also in the Silver District north of Yuma, Arizona, are these other mines which all produce Wulfenite, Here's the Red Cloud mine. This is a Google Earth view. Here's the Red Cloud mine at the bottom of the picture. And there's a fault that runs up this valley that connects the Red Cloud mine and the next mine that we're going to talk about, which is the North Geronimo mine. Then there's all these other mines over here, which all have produced varying amounts of Wulfenite in different qualities. But really, the Red Cloud and North Geronimo have produced the finest specimens in the whole district. As expected, or as you might imagine, since it's on the same vein system, the North Geronimo mine specimens look just like Red Cloud pieces. Although they do tend to be a little redder, they tend to be a little gemmier, but not nearly as many were found. So here's a wonderful North Geronimo piece, 3 centimeters across, that I found on Mindat. Another North Geronimo specimen, and most of these came out in the 90s and the 2000s. This one's 4.5 centimeters across, collected by George Godis, and that's in my collection. This 3 centimeter crystal is in Mark Hayes' collection, and you can see the exceedingly high quality of North Geronimo Wulfenites. Occasionally they're found with vanadinites, and vanadinite was actually more plentiful at this mine. And the North Geronimo probably produced the finest vanadinites in Arizona. So moving back to the center of the state, in Maricopa County, we've got the very famous Rowley mine, which has produced many, many specimens over the course of 3 or 4 decades. I'm sure most of you probably have a Rowley mine Wulfenite in your collection. This is what it looks like going down the main incline. That's us in 2015, and that's me underground on the 125 level. Now all these, you can see these veins here. That is solid barite. The deposit is basically a large barite vein that was loaded with galena and other sulfide minerals that was heavily weathered over the last couple million years, producing lots of great secondary lead minerals, including Wulfenite. If you've ever wondered what a Wulfenite pocket looks like underground, well, this is it. This is barite on either side, and these crystals go up to probably about 2 centimeters on edge. The whole view here, left to right, is about 40 centimeters across. So I didn't get to collect any of this stuff, so we were just shown the pocket. Take pictures, don't touch. But that said, I have collected Wulfenite at the Rowley mine, but many years prior. So this was in 2015. So what do these things look like when you pull them out of the ground, or after you pull them out of the ground? Well, here's a piece that was collected in 2004. Beautiful, delicate window pane style blades. This one's 6 centimeters tall, and that was collected by a guy named Ed Davis, and it's now in my collection. Here's another one that was collected just a few years ago by Keith Wentz, the current operators of the mine. And the mine is actually closed for now. Not sure when it's going to reopen, but they're working on it. And this is in Robbie McCarty's collection. It's about 5.5 centimeters tall. And if you want to see this piece, I think it's on exhibit at the University of Arizona Gem and Mineral Museum. Right, Robbie?
It will be. I haven't taken it over there yet. I've been loving it.
Okay, so it will be on exhibit at our brand new museum that we're building in Tucson, which is scheduled to open in January of 2020. Rowley Wulfenites can get really orange. And so can the Mimetite that comes from there, as is evidenced by this specimen. This is 16 centimeters tall. It's basically an entire pocket. It's encrusted with deep orange Mimetite and studded with orange Wulfenite crystals. So that's a really neat piece. It was probably collected about 5 years ago. This one was on the cover of a book, the Collecting Arizona book that Lithography produced several years back. It's in Mark Hayes' collection. It's one of my favorite Rowley Wulfenites of all time, and you can see why. These gemmy window pane blades sitting on fibrous orange Mimetite. It's really a beautiful thing. About 4.5 centimeters across. Now, one of the neat things about Wulfenites from the Rowley mine is sometimes you get them on this matrix with Chiricahua. So you get these neat color combinations of the secondary copper and secondary lead minerals. So that's Wulfenite with Mimetite and Chiricahua. And that's in Dick Morris's collection, about 7 centimeters across. So when this mine was really producing, it was a lot of fun to be acquiring these specimens on a fairly regular basis. Here's one that I'd just gotten. This was about 2010, and that's my front yard. I was so in love with this specimen, I went outside and took a picture of it. This one we call the shark, and you can see why. It's like Jaws, and it's now in the Scott Rudolph collection out on Long Island in New York. But that is a really, really cool piece, 9 centimeters tall. Here's another Rowley piece, 8 centimeters tall, in Mark Hayes' collection. More beautiful, delicate window pane crystals. Sometimes they get really large, not often, but sometimes. This piece is 18 centimeters across with very large crystals. The largest crystal in there is a little over an inch, which is real big for Rowley. And I was in there collecting for a couple of weeks in 2004, and I was lucky enough to find this specimen. It's a pocket of Wulfenite crystals on Mimetite on barite blades. So that's about 15 centimeters across. And we got really lucky that day. Managed to get it out without completely destroying it. This was collected the same year, just a couple of months after the one I found by Jim Ricker. And this is 12 centimeters across. And this was in Keith Proctor's collection for a long time, but we managed to reacquire it. Okay, moving up to Mohave County, which is in northwestern Arizona, is the Rawhide mine, which nobody's really heard about this mine. It hasn't produced a lot of Wulfenite, but what it has produced are really beautiful things. So this is probably the best specimen ever found at the Rawhide mine, 3.5 centimeters across. That's in Mark Hayes' collection, and it was collected by David Shannon. I'm sure several of you knew him. He was a very avid field collector in Arizona for many years, and this was out of his collection. Here's another Rawhide mine piece, 2.8 centimeters tall, associated with quartz, and that's in the Stephan Koch collection down in Tucson. Moving to Pima County, and not far from Tucson is the old Yuma mine. In fact, it's from the Westward Look Hotel. You can look across the valley to the west and just about see the old Yuma mine. It's in the mountains that are visible right in the near, the near skyline across the valley from the Westward Look. This is what it looked like in 1983. That's a look down the incline shaft, and this photo was taken from standing in that spot there down by the entrance. Now, none of this stuff is there anymore. The National Park Service bought the property and covered it up, completely reclaimed it. So this is a location that's dead and gone forever. Nothing will ever be found there again because it's part of the Saguaro National Park. This is probably the finest specimen ever found at the Old Yuma mine, at least it was preserved. Very famous piece that John Caesar collected with Gene Schlepp in the 1970s. That is a 10 centimeter tall orange crystal, undamaged. And I apologize for the photo quality. It's not very good, but it's just an amazing thing. Here's another old Yuma piece, a nice fat beveled crystal, 5 centimeters across, in Mark Hayes' collection. Probably collected in the 1970s by Gene Schlepp. Gene Schlepp did a lot of mining at this location since he lived in Tucson, and the mine was very close by. Here's a 9 centimeter tall specimen that was probably collected in the 1960s by a guy named Dick Jones, very famous old Arizona field collector. He did a lot of work at the old Yuma mine. That's now in my collection. Here's one of the most famous pieces ever to come out of the old Yuma mine. You can see this wonderful zoned gem window pane crystal, and it's associated with twin cerussite crystals. It's a fantastic piece, one of a kind, 6.5 centimeters across, and that's in the collection of Scott Adams up in Northern California. Okay, moving to the southern part of Pima County, just south of Tucson, is the Empire District, which is in the Empire Mountains, which you can see from Tucson, south of the city, southeast of the city, actually. And this is what the total wreck mine looked like in 1909. And it's produced a lot of really great Wulfenite over the years. It's tough to get to, but field collectors have been hitting it off and on for the past few decades. This is a really good total wreck piece that's somewhat reminiscent of glove mine material. Yellow blades coated with just on the edges with calcite crystals. Really lovely thing. And that's 9.5 centimeters across. Collected in 1991. Here's another total wreck mine piece in Mark Hayes' collection, 4.5 centimeters across. Nice gemmy blades. North of Tucson is Pinal County, and a really famous mining district called the Mammoth District, otherwise known as Tiger, and the Mammoth-St. Anthony mine. This location has produced more rare copper and lead species than any other location in Arizona, and it's very well known for its Wulfenite. Here we are on a field trip with the Mineralogical Society of Arizona. There's a place there where you can actually still collect a little bit of Wulfenite. It's called the Collins Cut. The Collins Cut is basically the vein that got mined out, but there's still little remnants of mineralization on the sides of it. So I think that's me right there, trying to find Wulfenite. That's me with Dr. Ray Grant, Bill Yedowitz, and Mike Shannon, who's collecting, he's actually collecting Creaseite right there. That's a rare mineral, rare green lead mineral. Okay, the earliest Wulfenites to come from Tiger are from the so-called Schultz mine, or the Schultz Cut, which was basically the outcrop of the vein, the Collins vein, they called it. Wulfenites from this era look like this. They're orange, but they tend to have this kind of smoked look, almost like they've been toasted or burnt or something. And they very often will occur with barite or quartz. So when you see this type of Wulfenite from Tiger, you know that it's the oldest stuff, the oldest material that was found back in the 1890s. And they were actually working this as a gold mine, if you can believe it or not. All the Wulfenite ore from Tiger is really high in gold. Here's another Schultz mine piece from the 1890s. This is in the University of Arizona collection. And you can see that kind of smoked-looking orange blade there on quartz crystals with a little Mimetite. Now later on, when they went underground at the Mammoth-St. Anthony mine, they started finding stuff like this. That's a 6-centimeter specimen, probably collected in the 30s or 40s from the Mammoth-St. Anthony mine. This is a really classic-looking Mammoth-St. Anthony piece. Mammoth-St. Anthony closed in 1953, so anything you have from Tiger came out prior to 1953. This one's 9 centimeters across, orange blades on kind of a boxwork skeletal Mimetite material. So you see it doesn't have that smoked look or that kind of grayish stuff on it like the older material, which I presume is a manganese oxide. Here's another classic Tiger piece. This is on a very lightweight clay matrix, and that one is 6 centimeters tall. Of course, everybody's favorite from Tiger are these combination specimens, Wulfenite with dioptase and cerussite. So this specimen's in Ed Rosenzweig's collection, and it's 5.5 centimeters across. This is the same combination, Wulfenite at the top, cerussite down here at the bottom of the pocket, and beautiful gemmy green dioptase needles. This is what Tiger is known for, these wonderful combinations of different minerals, lead and copper minerals typically. And that one's in Mark Hay's collection. This one's in my collection, and you can see the Wulfenite with the dioptase and tiny little V-twin cerussites all scattered around. And the little black dots is a mineral called fornacite. So that's 5 centimeters across. Now here's a Google Earth view of Tiger. And I wanted to show, here's Tiger, let's see, let me get my bearings here. Okay, the so-called Schultz cut is right here on top of a hill. So the vein runs this way. The Mammoth mine was right there. The Mohawk shaft is right there. And let's see, the Collins was right there. Now over here, if you extend a line to your upper left, the vein continues, and at the bottom of the wash there is the Ford mine. The Ford mine never really amounted to a whole lot, but you can still collect Wulfenite there. And in 2003, they hit this material, which was by far the best stuff ever found at the Ford mine. It looks just like the Mammoth-St. Anthony material. So this was collected in 2003 by Harold Urish, and that's 6 centimeters tall. Basically one big single crystal. So typically from the Ford mine, all that you'd see before that were very tiny little, up to 1 centimeter crystals. Okay, moving down into southern Arizona in Santa Cruz County is the world famous Glove Mine. The reason it was called the Glove Mine is the ore bodies underground formed, basically it looked like the shape of a hand or a glove, so they called it the Glove Mine. This is a view inside the main level going into the Glove Mine. Once you go in there a ways, there's a shaft. You go down the shaft into a huge stope, the main stope actually, and that's where the Wulfenite was found. Now, most of you have seen the classic butterscotch yellow Wulfenite crystals from the glove mine, I'm sure. But most people have not seen pictures of the pocket that those came out of. Well, this is what it looked like. This is the great 1958 pocket that was uncovered at the glove mine. There were actually two pockets like this, but this is one of them, and it's a few feet across and several feet deep. Collected by Harry Olson, Al Haig, and Dick Bedeau. And you can see this cavity is completely encrusted with your butterscotch Wulfenite crystals. Can you imagine what this must have looked like in person? Here's another shot of the Wulfenite pocket. These photos were taken by Harry Olson in 1958. Apparently, this stuff was very easy to collect. All they had to do was stick a screwdriver or a chisel underneath and just pop the Wulfenite plates off. Here's a close-up. And another close-up. I actually happen to have a specimen up in our room in 216 from this pocket if you want to take a look at one up close. Oh, and yet another close-up. So here's what they look like, or what they look like out of the ground. That's a 17-centimeter piece. This actually is from the Harry Olson collection, the guy who took those photos, and it's now in my collection. And that's my hand. That's a 7.5 centimeter rosette-looking specimen, and it's actually got a little bit of discloisite down here. So very often these occur with discloisites. And that's in Mark Hayes' collection. Here's a very large piece from that pocket in the Royal Ontario Museum collection, 20 centimeters across. Here's another one, a little different style, slightly different color, but probably from the same series of pockets, and that's in Dave Eicher's collection. Now, the glove mine has produced many, many different pockets, many different habits, crystal habits, and colors of Wulfenite. So here's another kind from there, much larger crystals and kind of a lemon yellow color. This one is 8 centimeters across, and that's in Mark Hayes' collection. Here's another one from probably the same pocket. It's 10 centimeters across. That's in my collection, and these were probably collected in the 60s. Now, a much lesser known mine that has produced some pretty nice Wulfenites is called the Purple Passion Mine, north of Wickenburg. This is Paul Gilmore, who was working the property for a while at the adit, the entrance to the mine. And this is what Purple Passion Wulfenites look like. They tend to occur on this purplish fluorite, hence the name Purple Passion. And the matrix rock actually is highly fluorescent. In fact, some of it even looks like Franklin, New Jersey material, very multicolored fluorescent rock. So it's kind of neat. Moving down to Yuma County in the southwestern part of the state, there are a couple mines in the Castle Dome district that have produced pretty good Wulfenites. Here's Yuma over here in the lower left, and the Puzzler mine is located just to the northeast of Yuma. The Red Cloud mine, for reference, would be a little farther to the north, to the upper left. Here's a Puzzler mine piece that was collected quite a while ago by Bob Griffiths. That's 2.7 centimeters across. associated with Mimetite. Here's another puzzler piece in Mark Hayes' collection that he collected in the 1990s, along with some wonderful vanadinites that they found at the Puzzler mine. And this one's 4 centimeters across. Here's another puzzler piece. The field of view is 4 centimeters across, and that also is in Mark Hayes' collection. And that's a Wendell Wilson photo. Not far from the Puzzler mine is the Hull mine, also known as the Rialto mine in the Castle Dome district. Again, it's just northeast of Yuma. And this is what your typical Hull mine Wulfenite looks like. Very yellow, small crystals, but highly lustrous and very collectible. That's 3.3 centimeters across. Often it occurs with cerussite, so you'll see these lemon yellow crystals with bipyramidal 6-ling twin cerussites. So that's a real common combination that you'll see from the Hull mine. Not so common is Wulfenite with fluorite. Now this was collected back in the 60s, back when it was called the Rialto mine. That's 7 centimeters across, and that's in my collection. And another common habit at the Hull mine are these blocky crystals that typically occur on corroded galena. This blobby looking thing here is a corroded galena crystal coated with anglicite or cerussite and studded with the Wulfenites. And then above that is a calcite crystal. Here's another similar piece with the corroded galena. Undoubtedly the lead in the Wulfenites came from the galena as it was weathering. And interestingly enough, here in the lower right is a fluorite cube. So that brings us to the end of the talk. We've covered all of the major collectible Wulfenite localities. And so we're going to end with the classic Arizona sunset, which I've entitled Wulfenite Sky, which I just happened to stroll out in front of my house and snap that picture one day last year. So I want to thank you for your attention. Thanks for listening. I really appreciate it.